Hello everyone, in this lecture I am going to discuss the fourth part in placental function. So before you watch this video, please go through with its previous three other parts, and the link of all these three is given in description box below. So in its previous third part I have mentioned some endocrinological function of placenta, where I have been discussed with the steroids hormone that are produced from placenta, estrogen and progesterone. So with the continuation of that endocrinology, I will discuss the protein and peptide hormones that are being synthesized from the placenta. So there are variety of protein and peptide hormones. Some of them I will mention here, that is, the hormones that are being released from the placenta are the human chorionic gonadotropin, human placental lactogen hormone, thyrotropic-releasing hormone, corticotropin-releasing hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, growth-releasing hormone, parathyroid hormone-related proteins, calcitonin, relaxin, inhibin, activin, atrial natriuretic peptide. So these are some hormones, the protein hormones that are synthesized from the placenta. But here in this lecture, I will mention very important two protein hormones, that is HCG and HPL. So first we'll discuss HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. So this hormone is an indicator whose presence in the maternal plasma and or in urine shows that the woman is pregnant. So this is the glycoprotein hormone, where 30% it is composed from carbohydrate. So that is why this hormone is not easily catabolized, because polypeptide chain can be easily catabolized, but the carbohydrate will degrade later. So thereby the half-life of this hormone is 36 hours. So the half-life means the time which is being required for the hormone to become half from its original value. So it takes 36 hours because it contains 30% of carbohydrate component. So this hormone is synthesized from the syncytiotrophoblast lining of the placenta, and here it starts synthesizing or it starts releasing into maternal plasma from day 7 to 9. So as soon as this time period, we can easily detect in maternal plasma that HCG is present and the woman is pregnant. But the value of this hormone is just double in every 2 days. So this much amount is the placenta produces HCG, and the value goes rising progressively. Around 8 to 10 weeks, it reaches peak. So when the pregnancy reaches around 60 to 70 days, the value of that HCG is around 100 international unit per ml. But after that, it starts declining. And around 12 to 14 weeks, or you can say around day 100 to 130 of pregnancy, the value remains only 10 international unit per ml. So it shows that in an initial state, it starts releasing more amount of HCG, and it reaches at peak around 8 weeks of gestation, and thereby it declines, and after 20 weeks of gestation, the value remained constant throughout pregnancy. So it is the reason also why the women have morning sickness in first trimester itself, because during that trimester the HCG secretion is also peaking. So when the HCG is more, then the woman may also have more nausea and vomiting, and once it get declined, then the symptom disappears, because for morning sickness again the hormone which is being responsible is HCG. And after 2 weeks of delivery, it start clearing from the maternal circulation. And this hormone is quite similar to the luteinizing hormone which is released from pituitary gland, and it acts on the organs or the structure which have LH-HCG receptors on their plasma membrane. So this hormone bind to that receptors and fluctuate that function, and the molecular weight of this HCG is around 36,000 to 40,000 Dalton, and it has two subunits, alpha and beta subunits. Alpha subunit is quite similar with the other glycoprotein hormones like LH, FSH and TSH, but the beta subunit is quite different from these because it has the different amino acid sequence. Now if we look at their function, then this hormone plays a very important role in rescuing of corpus luteum. So we know that the corpus luteum is the structure when the mature graphene follicle releases its secondary oocyte. So all the remnant part in that follicle forms the corpus luteum. So normally in menstrual cycle, the lifespan of corpus luteum is around 2 weeks. But as I said that it has the LH-HCG receptors on the plasma membrane of corpus luteum. So once the pregnancy conceives, the HCG start releasing and that HCG bind to the receptor that is present on the corpus luteum and rescue that corpus luteum from being degraded. It allows the corpus luteum to remain till 6 weeks and releases its main steroid hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. That is very essential for maintaining the pregnancy. For all the maternal adaptation, these steroid hormones are very important. Because till that, the placenta is not able to release these steroid hormone. So until it takes over all its function, the placenta rescue that corpus luteum, that remnant structure. So it allows the corpus luteum to release these hormones until it will release from the placenta. So this is the main function of placental HCG, that is to rescue the corpus luteum. And the other function of HCG is to release more testosterone. So again, how it is being released, that is on testes, again there are receptors regarding LH-HCG. So when the HCG bind to that receptor on the testes, then it will stimulate the Leydig cells. The Leydig cells that are lies within the interstitial spaces, the spaces that is present in between the seminiferous tubule. So there these cells get stimulated by HCG and they start producing more amount of testosterone. Thereby, if the male fetus is there, then it will help in differentiating the external genital organ in male by releasing testosterone. And the another important function of HCG is the immunosuppressive activity. Because here the fetus carries the paternally derived antigen that is foreign to mother. So once these cells interact with the maternal tissue, the immune suppression happens by this HCG. Because if it is not happen, then the maternal immune response can detect the fetus as in foreign material and can reject that graft. But because of this HCG, the fetal tissues are not that much foreign to the mother and thereby it is accepted by the mother's immune response. So it has got the immunosuppressive activity as well. And the another function of the HCG is it has got some thyrotropic activity. So thereby these HCG bind with the TSH receptor on the thyroid gland. So as a weak stimulator, once it attached with the thyroid gland receptors, it will start stimulating the thyroid gland to release more T3 and T4, which is essential for fetal development. And once it attached with thyroid gland, it suppresses the activity of TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So it stimulates the thyroid gland to release more thyroid hormone. And the other function of HCG is to release more relaxin from corpus luteum. So corpus luteum again have receptors where the HCG get bind there and releases more relaxin. And this relaxin is very important for the vasculature and for myometrium, because there it allows the vessels to be dilated more, and if the vessel get dilated more, then the flow will be more. So it will allow more flow toward the fetus for their exchange of nutrient and waste, and it allows the myometrium to be more relaxed so that the pregnancy can be continued further. So these are the vital function of the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. And the other protein hormone is the human placental lactogen. and it is also to be called as human chorionic somatomamotrophin hormone. So this is the another protein hormone, but it has no glucose or carbohydrate composition. It is only formed by polypeptide chain. Thereby it will catabolize and it will metabolize fast in maternal circulation. So thereby its half-life is very low, around 10 to 30 minutes. And the molecular weight of HPL is around 25,000 Dalton. And this hormone is also produced from the lining of syncytiotrophoblast around day 5 to 10. But in maternal plasma, it can be detected as early as 3rd week of gestation. Its value also start increasing throughout pregnancy, and once the pregnancy reaches near term, the value reaches its peak, and it also depends on the size of placenta. The bigger the placenta is, more HPL will be released. So around term, it will releasing around 25 microgram per milliliter. And the activity of HPL is quite similar with the maternal pituitary gland and prolactin. So the important function of HPL are, as it is similar to the pituitary gland and prolactin, so it helps in the growth and the development of breast tissues, which is essential for lactation as the pregnancy terminates. And the another function is very important, that is it has got anti-insulin property or diabetogenic property, because whatever the insulin does, it opposes its action. So thereby it allows more glucose and amino acid to be transferred across this barrier and reach toward the fetal circulation. So it has the lipolysis property, it helps in protein synthesis, it allows more amino acid to be transferred from mother to fetus, it allows more free fatty acid to be transferred toward the fetus. So it allows more nutrients, glucose and amino acid to be transported across this membrane and received by fetus. So this is very important role of HPL, that is it work against the insulin, anti-insulin or diabetogenic action it plays. And the another function is it has got angiogenic property. It means it help in formation of more vasculature, more blood vessels in the fetus. So these are the essential function of the HPL. So here we have discussed the endocrinology of the placenta, that is the main hormones that are being released from the placenta, the steroid that are being discussed in the previous session, that is this estrogen and progesterone, and in this session we have discussed the protein and peptide hormone like HCG and HPL. And the last function of placenta is immunological function. It means the placenta plays very important role in the immune response by not rejecting the fetus as it is a foreign to the mother. So this is very important role. We know the fetus contains the paternally derived antigen, although it is, but still it is not being rejected by maternal immune response. That is because of the placenta. And the basic physiology behind this is the expression of HLA antigen, that is human leukocyte antigen. This antigen is actually present in all over the body. So this antigen, whenever it is present, it recognizes by our immune response and help in finding what is self and what is non-self. So this HLA antigen is actually not present in the trophoblastic lining, the villus trophoblastic lining. So the trophoblast that is present in the villus system, that is chorionic villus system, that lacks this HLA expressing antigen. That is HLA class 1 and class 2 molecules are not there in the villus trophoblast. So that's why if these antigen are not there in the trophoblast, then maternal immune response cannot be identified the trophoblast or fetus as an invader or the foreign to mother, because these are not there in the villus system. So thereby it is not be rejected by the maternal immune response. But there are some other trophoblastic lining as well, that is the extravillus trophoblast. The trophoblastic lining that is extra to the villi system is also there, but they expresses HLA class 1 molecule. But somehow it has immune privilege as well, because once this HLA class 1 antigen which is present on extravillous trophoblast interface or interact with the maternal decidual natural killer cell, they releases some cytokines and some inflammatory response. Thereby, it allows the invasion of these cells into the spiral arterioles. Because we know that during pregnancy, we want more high flow system toward the fetus. So, it is only possible when the trophoblastic lining get invaded into the spiral arteries. And this is happened because of the interaction between decidual natural killer cell and the extravillous trophoblast. But also it will limit its invasion. It will not allow these cells to be invaded more deeper up to myometrium or perimetrium. So it limits its invasion up to endometrium itself, but help in invasion so that the vessels get dilated more and flow will be more toward the fetus. So this is how the placenta provides the immunosuppressive effect toward the fetus, and the fetal graft is not being rejected by mother. So here in this lecture we have discussed the functions of placenta, that is the protein hormones that are being produced from the placenta, that is HPL and HCG, and the immunological function. Thank you.